Namaste, yogi astrologers, and welcome to Karma Yoga Center's Alchemical Astrology Report. I'm Michael Shankara, and this is for the new moon in Gemini, which will be on Monday, June 3rd. And this report will take you through the full moon, which will be June 17th on Father's Day. I'm actually going to talk a little bit beyond the full moon so that we can get a feel of a full lunar cycle. I know that we do this full moon report, and it's been over a year now. We're a year old. We started in May 2018, and so I think this is our 28th or 29th full moon report that we've done, or new moon report. But let's kick off. I'm going to talk mostly about this new moon cycle and a little bit about the other astrology, but I want to delve into the energy. So this new moon on Monday, June 3rd, is in the sign of Gemini, and as you've probably learned by now, anytime the moon is new, or if you haven't learned, we'll remind you, it is in the exact same sign as the sun. What that means is, if you were able to look up into the sky, the moon is traveling exactly with the sun. So when the sun is rising in the east on the day of Monday, June 3rd, the moon is right in front of the sun, and so we can't see it. It's occulted by the sunlight. And it travels across the sky that day and sets with the sun. And so anytime there's a new moon, it means there is a star-filled night. Of course, if the weather is cooperating and there's not cloud cover or a different weather at that time. But it's always good stargazing underneath a new moon for the first couple days before the new moon, and then a couple days thereafter. So check that out if you're able to as well. But let's talk about the energy of Gemini first. If you were somebody who was born under the sign of Gemini, the sun is in Gemini basically from about May 20th, 21st, 22nd, all the way through the solstice in June, which this year happens to be on the 21st. So that is an astrological month of Gemini from May 22nd to June 21st. And if you want to understand the energy of an astrology sign, you can look to nature when the sun is in that sign. And so when the sun is in the sign of Gemini in the northern hemisphere, it's springtime, and it's the last third of spring. And so if you look outside now, particularly here in Denver, Colorado, there's lots of vibrancy and energy happening. The sign of Gemini in nature is when the leaves have almost fully come off the trees, the flowers are in full bloom, there's lots of energy happening in the animal world, from the birdies to the insects to the rabbits, to all sorts of energy going on, and so it's very vibrational. And the energy of Gemini has to do with vibration and frequency and transmission. And so Gemini energy, when we're talking both inside of yourself and outside of yourself, has to do with communication and transference of ideas, of energy, of talk, of data. Gemini most directly relates to the planet of Mercury. And so whatever I say about the energy of Gemini also applies to the planet Mercury. Mercury and Gemini are about communication. Mercury, or Hermes, was, or is, the energy, the avatar, the god, the representation of communication. He has wings on his shoes that he uses to fly. And in the Greek mythology and Roman mythology, Mercury / Hermes is the only energy or god that is able to freely move between the upper world, Mount Olympus, the human world, the middle world, and the underworld where Hades and Pluto are. And he can do it at any time, any way that he wants, because he is just message. He is bringing information between these three worlds. And connecting to the Gemini Mercury energy is a very important archetype for us as human beings. It's where the ideas of talk therapy comes from, psychology comes from shamanic journeying, more ancient traditions come from. It's having a powwow and sitting in a circle, or having a council and discussing things and ideas and transmission and sharing it with each other. It's also what we do on our internal work, particularly in the shamanic Mother Earth, medicine woman, medicine man traditions. We are learning, again, hopefully as human beings, how to communicate between our own three worlds. Our upper world is our upper three chakras. That would be the throat chakra for truth and speech. That would be the third eye chakra, that's for our intuition and inner knowing, and our crown chakra for connecting into the unified field, to Great Spirit, to One Love, Hari Om. Now, the middle ground, or the middle world, is the heart chakra, the fourth chakra. It's the center chakra between the upper three and the lower three. This is the energy of love, the center point, the bindi, the place of patience, of compassion, of empathy. And then the lower world in the body are the lower three chakras. That's your solar plexus, your sacral chakra, and your root chakra. And these are the energies that connect to the ground, the earth, the underworld, the womb. And we need communication between these three centers, between the upper world, the center, and the lower world, or the upper chakras, the heart, and the lower chakras. So Gemini/Mercury represents this energy of being able to communicate. Incidentally, or not incidentally, Mercury and Gemini, when we apply them to medical astrology, they connect to the energy of the nervous system and electricity and transmission. And our nervous system is what helps communicate between the brain and the heart and our five senses. And all of that informs the soul's journey here on Earth. And it's free will choice. There's not good or bad. Is information good or bad? Is electrical transmission good or bad? It's how you use that information that determines whether it's a positive or negative effect, or whether it's karmic or dharmic, or in alignment with your soul's purpose. But part of a soul's journey, if they're in high alignment, if they're looking to fulfill their soul's purpose, is to understand this transmission way of communication between the upper and lower worlds, or the inner and outer worlds. And it's actually Hermes Trismegistus and Mercury that has a saying that is, as above, so below, as within, so without. And there's a similar phrase in the Bible, as it is in heaven, so shall it be on earth. It's the principle that everything is a reflection of everything else. If you want to understand something that's outside of you, look inside to understand it. And vice versa, if you're trying to understand yourself, your healing, your special gifts, your creativity, look to nature, look to the natural world, look to the stars for inspiration and understanding, look to the animal world, look to the mineral world, look to the plant world, look to the kingdom of the fungi world. All of these can share insights to help you understand your inner journey. So, this is a longer description of what is this Gemini new moon plus the Gemini sun, and not to mention Mercury is in the sign of Gemini right now, in his home sign. And so this new moon, sun, and Mercury, all in the Gemini vibrational transmissional energy, is a lot of communication. So this new moon is going to revolve around things of talking, of speaking, of communicating, of learning. Learning is also a process of communication. It's taking that energy inward and doing some self-reflection. Some other words I wrote down here for the new moon in Gemini with the Sun and Mercury are duality. Part of Gemini is the twins. When we look at the astrological wheel, it's two energies. And when we're here in the third dimensional reality, the duality is something's hot, something's cold. But we can't understand something to be hot unless we know what's cold. Or vice versa, we have day and night, or light and dark. We don't know what darkness is if we don't understand light. And so Gemini is the school or the university of the third dimension, meaning everything is put into dualities or seeming dualities. Part of the spiritual journey is then to work with these dualities and see how everything comes back to the center point, or how everything emanates from the center. It's also the yin-yang symbol in the Eastern traditions. The two spirals going around each other, one black, one white, but they have the opposite color, one dot in them, to show that the duality is contained within each other. The black contains the white contains the black. The Mayans also shared this symbol with Hunabku, or the cosmic butterfly. The symbol will be here on the screen, you can see that, and it's very similar in a way to the yin-yang symbol. So yin-yang, Hunabku, duality are all terms for Gemini. Curiosity is a very Gemini flavor. It's being curious about your environment. And right now, when it's springtime, it's a very curious time. Things are blooming, things are appearing, things are changing, things are shifting, things are coming into our awareness and going. There's a lot of energy moving. It's a curious time. And if we relate the astrological wheel to the development of a human being, this has to do with the earlier years of a child, when they begin to become curious and they have a little bit of autonomy and they start to explore their environment and they want to know, what's this, what's that, and they ask questions. Why is this, what is that, answer me this. Gemini and Mercury also have to do with exploring new possibilities. With this curiosity, with this learning, with this talking and exploring, we can look at new things, new cycles coming up. And this is accentuated even more because when the moon is new, it's starting a new cycle. And so the new moon cycle plus the new moon in Gemini with the Sun and Mercury is opening up the portal for a whole bunch of new possibilities. New ways of being, new ways of understanding, new ways of healing, new ways of being in the world, new ways of bridging gaps between two seemingly opposite ways or formerly opposite ways. Last thing I'll say about Gemini is it has to do with information and the internet. It connects to the internet activity because it's transmission, it's connectivity, it's going around. So, you know, this could be a beautiful time to share information on the internet, or information will be revealed on the internet. The big caveat that goes with Gemini, though, is that it is just about the exploration of things. So there's a big difference between information and truth, information and wisdom, knowledge and something that is going to last a long time. What I mean by this is Gemini is the curiosity where we get interested in a topic and we start exploring. And then as we go deeper into it and we start to become more educated about it and we start to put things into practice, that initial information data starts to turn into knowledge. The knowledge starts to turn into wisdom and goes into deeper truth. Now the opposite sign, 180 degrees across the astrology wheel, or 180 degrees in the sky, is the sign of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is the counterbalance to Gemini. Sagittarius, the sign of Sagittarius is truth. It's ultimate truth. It's the truth of the universe. It's the truth of the laws of nature, Mother Nature's laws. It has to do with trust and faith and trusting in these universal laws of beauty and being truthful and speaking in belief and tapping into the inner intuitive knowings. Gemini is a more mental sign, and Sagittarius in balance is a more intuitive, unseen, getting into that world of the spirit, your spiritual journey. Sagittarius represents what we believe, what we intuit. Gemini can represent what we know and think. They're not meant to be against each other, but oftentimes they can be pitted against each other. If we get too much in the mental, we don't trust the intuitive. We also maybe aren't in the world of truth. There can be a lot of, the yogic word is Maya, which is illusion in the sign of Gemini, when it's unbalanced. And also Sagittarius can be unbalanced as well. When somebody is unbalanced Sagittarius energy, they purposely lie. They misrepresent. They show mistruth. They avoid intuition and truth speak. Well, this whole axis of Gemini and Sagittarius are very important at this new moon. For the Gemini piece, again, we have the moon, the sun, and Mercury there. And then way over in Sagittarius, in the opposite side of the sky, is the planet Jupiter. And Jupiter is in its home sign. Everything I would say about Sagittarius also applies to the planet Jupiter. Just how I said everything I can say about Gemini applies to the planet Mercury. So Mercury and Jupiter are both in their home constellation signs, and they're very powerful. They're very able to express themselves when they're in their home signs, or that expression comes through us more prominently when planets are in their home signs. So what does it mean to have Jupiter, the sign of truth and faith? Jupiter is also the biggest planet in the solar system, and so wherever it is in the astrology wheel or in your chart, it makes things bigger, more expansive. It's also the sign of going on a journey in search for the truth. So Jupiter, which is wanting truth and expansion, is opposite of the new moon, the sun, and Mercury in Gemini, which is wanting to talk and communicate and transmit. And so a high vibrational expression of this new moon, and I want to add here, what is the moon energy itself? So stripping it from whatever sign it's in, what does the moon represent for us individually? Since this is the moon report, it's a good thing to revisit. The moon is your emotional body. It's your emotional intelligence. It's what goes on in your internal worlds. It connects to the water. It connects to your mother or the great mother or the Ma or Mother Gaia, all those mothering aspects. It also shows you your own mothering aspect, whether you're a man or a woman or a child or somebody of a transgender. We all have that mothering element energy within inside of us. We all have an inner moon. It's how we want to be nurtured. It's how we nurture. And so when our emotional energy is in the sign of Gemini, we want to talk about our emotions. When it's paired across from Jupiter, it's being in opposition to truth. Now, opposition to truth doesn't necessarily mean that there will be mistruth, but it means that truth is shining down on our emotional body and there's a need to speak about it. It can be challenging, and so this can be a time, my phrase for this new moon in Gemini is truth talks and nature walks. Truth talks is speaking the Gemini nature piece, the Gemini emotional piece, and the nature piece is the Sagittarius Jupiter. And so what is beneficial for us at this time is to have truthful talks. These can be truthful talks like, what do I want? What do I want to envision? What's in my heart? What's calling to me? What new things do I want to learn? How do I want to put things out into this world? There also may be something vibrating in your inner emotional body, your consciousness, your conscience that needs to be spoken. So this can be a time where you feel compelled to tell the truth. And it's either a truth that's been hidden because you've been hiding it because you're afraid of what the truth might bring, or it's a truth like exuberance, like I need to speak this, I understand something, I have a revelation, and I want to share it and get it out there, and I want to speak it. But either way, this is a time of truth speaking. And the opposition energy of the Moon, Sun, and Mercury opposite of Jupiter, an opposition you can think of two people sitting at a dinner table. It can be very intimate and the conversation can flow back and forth, or it can be a little tense or a lot of tense back and forth. But either way, when you're in opposition to something, your attention is directly focused there. Like right now, I'm in opposition to you as a viewer. I'm looking directly at the screen and you're looking directly at me, and it's demanding attention. If we were in person to person, we could have a communication about this. So, that truth talks and nature walks. What I mean by that is, this will be a time, likely, of bringing up things that need to be spoken, communicated, shared. Also be open to listening. That's the other side of Gemini, is you have to listen and listen for the truth. It's just not what the words are saying, listen from your heart. What is the emotional body saying? Is what's being transmitted to you an emotional truth? Is it a spiritual truth? Is it a surface level truth? So be aware on that level with your Jupiter and Sagittarius to have your truth antenna up, your truth body out, and be aware that when you're speaking at this time to speak truth. It's important. Truth is the bond of trust, and trust is the bond that makes us work as a society or as a culture, or not. How much truth and trust is there in our current society, in our media, in our advertising, in our government, in our corporations, in our communities, in our families, in our relationships? This is a good time that we can hopefully start to call back these deeper truths that are needed to build strong trust and bonds so that we can have a beautiful society, so that we can feel emotionally secure, so that we can be trusting and also trust others. One, yogis, sit with it, meditate with it, and do your best to be in the present moment with nature, with your emotional body, and remember to come into communication with your upper and lower worlds, with your past and your future, but always trying to draw yourself back to the here and now, grounding into the heart center, the center chakra of your system of compassion, of faith, of trust, of patience. All right, we'll see you on the full moon. Namaste.